Okay, Panther fans, it is time for another Goldie on Ice podcast. I know people are, a little panicked, a little concerned, a lot of different places to look as to what's gone on with this team over the first two games of this series against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Well, you know, there's a lot of different factors at work. The easy way out, and Paul Maurice was asked this after the game in Toronto. Hey, you played a lot of hockey the last couple of years. Maurice really didn't want to buy into any of that, saying we've actually played less than our regular schedule of late, so I'm not going to look at that. Could that be a factor? Sure. You've played all those games. We've talked about this all year long over the last couple of years. Could there be a cumulative effect? Yes. I'm not really seeing that physically, being at the first two games in Toronto and watching them. I think there's a lot of different things at play. Number one, in game one, Sergei Bobrovsky did not have his best game. He came back a lot better in game two, except for the fourth goal, which ended up being the game winner by Mitch Marner from the boards. The other three goals, you got to give the other team some credit. A great deflection by Pacioretty, great hands by Nylander, who is really having a great playoff with Toronto, which will be the next point that I bring up, that there's a team on the other side getting paid that's really good and really hungry, that's been disappointed so many times over the years. Those goals that Toronto scored tonight, as I'm recording this after the game, except for the fourth one, they're tough goals to give up. Panthers could have been better at puck management, particularly on that third goal. Took a few penalties in the first period, which certainly hurt them. But overall, the Panthers, I know they lost. I know they're down 0-2 and it's a tough hole. But they did a lot of good things in game number two. And I was watching that game, and I'm pretty confident that entire time in the third period that they were going to get the game tied and win the game. Now, I think another big factor momentum-wise, and the Panthers have been through so much over the years, they don't really let it deter them too much. But giving up goals right after you score, they've done that in both games. And in game two, they actually had a couple of leads. So, things got a little scrambly there in that second period, some puck management things that could have been better. But, in the third, Paul Maurice makes that change. Sam Miskevich with Bennett and Tkachuk. They had that amazing chance. Give Joe Wall credit. He sprawled out. He did make the save. And then in the 6-on-5, I think that thing could go either way. So I think they come home. The D is complete now with Ekblad in the lineup. The first game in there, overall, defensively, I thought they were good. They got out of their zone very quickly. The Leafs only had 20 shots. Unfortunately, they scored on 4 of them. But I think you'll see the defense continue to get better as a group now that it's settled in. Ekblad is back. Mikkel is with Jones. And I just think the series is far from over. I think that Lundell line has been amazing. It's interesting because Craig Berube put the Tavares line, the second line, against the Lundell line. Basically, the Barkov line and the Matthews line, the top lines have offset each other. But give Toronto credit, they've gotten some contributions from their depth. And, tonight Stevie Lawrence, the former Panther, sets up Domi for that 2-on-1 goal. That's the one that, really gave Toronto the lead, and the Panthers came back to tie the game, but that one put them behind. So that was a huge goal. So they've gotten some contributions from that line. And look, we know what it takes to win the whole thing because the Panthers did it. And you need everybody on board, and your top guys have to be your top guys. And right now, offensively, the Leafs have done a good job against Reinhart. Part of that is he's such a great, responsible defensive player that he and Barkov have done an amazing job against Matthews and Marner. So you've kind of got that big offset there. Carter Verhaeghe had a good game. He was active as heck. He got a couple of hits in on Tanev. Back in the Toronto zone, physical, ton of shot attempts, but I believe only one of about 9 got on the net. So, those top lines, in some ways, offsetting each other. Lundell's line is doing a good job. Now you've got Sam Miskevich with Bennett and Tkachuk, and I just think they're going to have to produce in these home games. they're going to have to post something. And then, does Paul Maurice make a little change there? He made the change during the game when Rodriguez got hit. I don't blame refs for losses. A lot goes on in the game. I thought the call was ridiculous. Embellishment. The guy gets hit from behind, head first into the boards, leaves and goes to the room. And how anybody can determine that Evan Rodriguez embellished that is kind of beyond me. But it's a call. It happens, and you have to play through it. That said, I think Sergei Bobrovsky has been through all of this stuff in his career. Look, if he has 4 average games or below average games in a series, sure, you're going to lose the series. I mean, that's just, that goes for any goaltender. That said, like I said, game 2, much better than game 1, except for that 4th goal. He'd like to have one back, that Marner shot from the board. So I'm fascinated to see what happens when they get home. The Lundell line is playing so well that does Paul Maurice go with that line at times, or at least to start against the Matthews line and see how it goes? Because if they can do the job defensively on that line, then maybe you free up, Barkov, Reinhart, and Verhaeghe a little bit more offensively. So matchups may be a factor. I'm not sure if they, get AJ Greer maybe in the lineup. I know the crowd will be juiced up, and I expect the Panthers, who, will be the more desperate team probably for the first time in the series, clearly. We'll bring the juice. We'll bring the physicality. They know they need to win this game, and probably win them both. Because 3-1 possible, happened against Boston a few years ago, but tough to do, a situation you'd rather not be in. The other thing that's going to be interesting is, this Maple Leafs team has done a great job. I think Craig Berube's come in, done a good job. They stayed the course. The Panthers were coming hard. They didn't seem to have all that much panic in their game. The Panthers were all over them at certain times, especially in that 3rd period. But they haven't been up 2-0 in a series this late in the playoffs, and it's only the 2nd round, in nearly 40 years. So it's the first time for this group managing a little prosperity, if you will, in a series in the 2nd round or beyond. So let's see how they end up handling that. You knew it wouldn't be easy. This is why winning back-to-back and going to the Stanley Cup final like the Panthers have twice in a row is nearly impossible. They're trying to go 3 times in a row. That makes it even more harder. It's not an easy thing to do. They did a great job in the Tampa series, and a few things to clean up, get a few more saves, and we'll see if they can come home and basically hold serve. It's the first time they've been down 2 games in a series since the Cup final in 23 last year. They did a great job managing it. Remember, they lost game 1 at home against Boston, came storming back. They were down 2-1 to the Rangers. By the way, in fairly similar fashion, if you remember, games 2 and 3, especially game 3 at home, they dominated that game against the Rangers, just didn't win it. They lost in overtime. And after those 2 games, they came back and they won 3 in a row in that series, and then won 6 in a row overall to get within 1 game of the Stanley Cup, which obviously they then lost 3 in a row and then won the game 7. So making everybody's heart stop for a little while. So look forward to seeing everybody at Amerant Bank Arena. Once again, here on the Goldie on Ice podcast, we'll tell you, Goldie's gang, check out letsgohomebaby.shop on the website. That's letsgohomebaby.shop. We got shirts, we got mugs. You can order, and the proceeds go to charity. And keep in mind, once again, great job by Scripps Sports. Your Panthers home for television. We are not allowed to do the games after the 1st round. They're all national broadcasts, but Scripps stepping up for the South Florida sports fan and all of you. 30 minutes before every game, we've got pregame shows. They've been great so far, so tune in Friday and Sunday, 30 minutes before face-off, wherever you watch Panther games all season long. Channel 39 in South Florida, Channel 9, Palm Beach, all the way up the coast, and over in the Fort Myers area as well on 36.3. And we'll talk to you next time on the podcast.